Yes, we are live. So, hello everyone, and welcome to our webinar. Thank you all for joining. My name is Elena Grinyuk, and I'm Regional Manager for the Central Eastern Europe at the SME Banking Club, and I will be your host today. And today we would like to discuss how banks can help their SME customers to get back to business after, or I would say even still during the Corona crisis. And I'm glad to be joined today by Eddie Ingel, Chief Business Development Officer at vCita. Hello, Eddie, and thank you for joining.
Hi, thank you for inviting us.
Before we get back to the topic, let me shortly mention some organizational moments. So our webinar is scheduled for 40 minutes. We are recording this webinar, so right after we finish, you will receive the link to the video and the presentations. And in the end of the webinar, we're gonna have time for your questions. So please type your questions even now during the presentations into the chat, and we will answer them in the end of our webinar. So let's go to the topic. I just wanted from my side to show you two examples of what we have seen and what banks are doing here in the Central Eastern Europe, starting from April to help their SME customers to start working in the new reality. Except the payment holidays and distribution of governmental support program for businesses. And these are actually the cases, two cases from two Polish banks. First one is ING. They launched a campaign that was called Keep Doing Business, and offering their customers to move and start their businesses online, of course, in the areas or in the industries where it is possible. And so they offered to do this without any cost. So they offer 3 months free opening and setting of an e-shop. And they also offer their payment gate of the bank and a solution that they implemented together with a Czech fintech called Twisto, which is a solution buy now, pay later. So their customers, so the customers of e-shop, have the possibility to pay later. So they have 3 weeks to pay for the goods they buy. And this was supported by the commercials in different medias and by the webinars for the customers. And the second example, also here in Poland, from a bank, very similar campaign called Move Your Business to Online, also offering start selling online. So the same offer is launching e-shop for 1 zloty, free payment gate from the bank, and also the here support and offer advertisement package. And this is also implemented with the partner, and the here bank gives 50% discount for their marketing package. Also, they supported this with a series of commercials in the country. And now, actually, till the July 22, they launched a competition called Digital Revolution, so that the customers can apply with their ideas and business plans how they will develop their business online. And the winners will receive a prize of 100,000 zlotys and some smaller amounts as well. But what is also important, this is no a money prize, but also support from the bank's partners and also mentors. So here, actually, Eddie, I would like to pass the word to you. So I know you have your also SME user base, and will you share with us your experience and what impact has COVID-19 on your user base? What have you learned, and what vCita actually have responded to that? So you're
Thank you. Could you switch to my presentation then? Thank you. So hello everyone, and thank you for joining us. We were hoping today to share a little bit from our experience on with our engagements with our small business community. As Elena said, my name is Adi, and just to give you some background about why we feel that we know to speak on behalf of SMEs. So of course, we ourselves are a startup, we're a fintech company, so we are not an SME ourselves, which is something we have to keep in mind always, that while we are designing for SMEs, and in our case, we're trying very hard to make sure that we design with SMEs, we still have to, find a way to put ourselves really in their shoes. What we have been able to do, so our app that we've been developing is a CRM for micro businesses. And we've been doing this for 10 years now. We help them manage their day-to-day activities. So whether it's managing their customer base, their engagement with their customer base, whether it's managing their transactions with their customers, the business logic that is behind it. So essentially taking a CRM model that a lot of us from bigger businesses know and taking it to the micro business level. As I said, we've been doing it for 10 years. By now we have quite a few registered users, partners that are reselling our product. And then I think most interesting for us and this group, we have a very active project, a very active community that we're engaging with on a day-to-day basis. We have more than 10,000 SMEs that are participating in that community. They definitely let us know when we're doing good things, and more so when we're doing bad things. And we love that because it really gives us that day-to-day communication with those people. And we're able to then take those learnings and share them with our partners or with yourselves today. I have to say, first of all, that what we've discovered, and of course we are not Zoom, we didn't grow by 1,000,000%, but April and May were our busiest month ever since we've started the company. I think what we've seen is two types of additional activity. We've seen more people searching for efficiency and transparency solutions like the one that we are creating. And we've also seen more existing users exploring new elements of the system that they weren't using before. So we've seen more than 70% increase in usage from existing users that were already there, but we're now potentially having the optimistic version of it will be more time. Maybe the pessimistic version of it will be more need to look at new functionality that they didn't encounter before. So what we thought we are going to do today is share with you some of the insights that we've learned from them. Of course, we would love to talk about ourselves, and you will have our contact information at the end of it to allow us to do that. But really the focus of us today is our user base. So I think the first thing that we have to take into account is, I think what we all realized by now, I just came from an internal workshop that we did in the company about managing through change. And I think initially, if anyone thought that this is going to blow away or it's going to take 2 months, or for me, I still had travel plans for September. I now realize that I probably can cancel my travel plans for September. I think we all know now that it's not just about surviving the initial lockdown period. And I think a lot of businesses did manage, whether it's because they had a buffer or because they changed their business models a little bit to survive the initial stage. But eventually we have to look at this look for long-term solutions. And I think this is a good opportunity for us, because I don't think realistically, companies like us, and definitely not through partnerships, we have the ability to respond, today or in a couple of days or next week. We have to build models for it. We have to build partnerships for it. And I think, while obviously there was an immediate response that went out, and I think Olena shared some examples of that. And of course, there was, a lot of educational activity coming through. The short-term solutions are great, but it also allows us to look at, midterm and long-term solutions as, through partnerships, through creating new offerings to those people, through creating new business models amongst ourselves to help them. And I'm a runner, so I like a good marathon metaphor. And if you are a runner or any kind of endurance athlete, you know that you have to plan for different stages of the race. You have to make sure you start in a certain way and you don't go too fast, or you'll run out of energy. The middle is the worst part, because you're just kind of figuring out that this is just the middle of it. You still have to finish this. And obviously the end, I can't, of course, this is where my metaphor breaks, because I don't think that we can see the end yet in sight. But let's call it, in our case, a long-term strategy. And I'm going to give examples of 3 of our businesses and how they handled short-term, mid-term, and potentially will want to handle long-term. I have to say that one of the most obvious things that we've seen from our community is that we have to personalize our approach to different businesses. And I think this is very much verticalized in our ability to respond. And I'll give a very obvious example. Some businesses were able to continue working as they were. If I am a psychologist, if I'm a legal counsel, if I'm a tax advisor, yes, I am a small business, but my services are necessary regardless. I can maintain my existing business models, that I might be moving my meetings from face-to-face to Zoom. So it's a question of adjusting their infrastructure, digitizing some of their day-to-day, but basically they were able to maintain their business model as it was. They're still charging for the same service that they used to. They just had to move their the platform over which they were doing it. Another type of businesses is the type of businesses that had to shut down completely, and there was nothing that they could do about it. If I was a hairdresser, if I'm an acupuncturist, a massage therapist, a physical therapist, a lot of those people, everything that had to be delivered face-to-face or with any level of touch was, of course, shut down completely. And there's no level of messaging that we can share with them about taking their business online that will actually resonate with them. So I think, yes, a lot of them did all kinds of marketing initiatives to maintain their relationships with their clients. But, we can't expect the hairdresser to now, completely change their business model, and, because that would essentially mean that they need to change their profession. And the third group of people, which was kind of in the middle, and to be honest, I think that was probably the hardest group to be part of. If I'm the type of business that can potentially change the way that I deliver my services, whether it's, I think the most common example was restaurants that started delivering food to people's homes, whether I'm a yoga studio and I wanted to do some of my face-to-face sessions online, whether I'm a doctor and I wanted to do a level of telemedicine. So it's not my entire business. I would like to be able to check people physically, but I could still do a consultation over the phone. So these businesses were kind of in the middle. They are, they were able to maintain a certain level of activity, but it did impact their levels of, definitely their income. Maybe they lost some clients in the process. So in general, we found that we have to treat all of these different types of businesses and, think about solutions for every one of them. Because definitely, if I was a yoga studio yesterday and now I have to, for any reason, start giving my services online, I am definitely not going to become the next big Instagram influencer or the YouTube sensation, Yoga with Adrian, and have hundreds and thousands of followers on day one. It's not going to happen on day 20. It's not going to happen after a year even. And if I did, it's still a completely different business model than I had before. It's commercial based. It's giving influencers obviously are making money from writing books and endorsing products and all kinds of things like that. You have to completely change your business to come to this point, and we can't expect every single person to become a YouTube sensation. I'm definitely not going to. So I want to share some of the specific stories that we came across. And I think an excellent example of what would be like the immediate need of a small business is Julie McLaughlin. She's been, she's a chiropractor. She's a medical doctor. She's offering services face to face, and during lockdown, her practice was completely shut down. And in the process, she also had to let go because of financial concerns or of her staff, or some of them were still under some kind of quarantine, or for any reason they do not feel comfortable yet coming back to work. So essentially what happened to her is that she's emerging out of lockdown. She's going back to business, but in a completely different reality than before. So it's not just about making sure that her place is properly cleaned out between appointment, which is something that, of course, she had to do. She had to comply with regulations. She had to let her clients know that she's complying with regulations. But she also had to take over a lot of her, previously her staff's task of coordinating the meetings, tracking appointments, keeping notes, and things like that. And she needs to be as efficient as possible, because one of the things that we realize now, that those businesses might find themselves in a situation where they are shut down again for any reason. It could be because their area is going back to lockdown. It could be because, specifically for them, someone who had COVID-19 who tested positive was in that place and they have to shut down. Of course, if they personally had to go into quarantine. So it's about maximizing efficiency in a very short period of time, and making sure that she gets the most of her day. And I think if we look at what would be helpful for her, from us as a technology company, from our partners, the banks, obviously alleviating pressure is the priority. So whether it's financial pressure, which is something that our partners can help them with, whether it's pressure automating as many tasks as that they're doing as possible, if it's about giving them those tools that will be very specific to what they were trying to do. And this is really not the time to do one of two things. First, it's not the time to come say, hello, would you like a fully digital CRM? Because as pressurized as she is right now with her, with whatever she needs to do, this is, us coming in with our idea of her having to go through a digital transformation or, change her business model. It's really not the right time. And although we do have, quite a substantial digital solution that we were able to offer those businesses, we did not choose to come, leading with that concept of let's completely change your model. or let's revolutionize your business, or let's go digital. We chose to highlight the specific tools within the platform that would help them. So we sat down, we reimagined what those tools might be, how she might use them, and we've made sure that we've shared the specific use cases with our community. So, for example, she mentions sharing with her entire patient base the fact that she's complying with COVID-19 regulations. She created a campaign on our platform with her own picture with a mask on and some cleaning, whatever alcohol wipes around her, and she sent it to her entire client base, and she said, I want you to know that I've done the following things to make sure that I am COVID-19 compliant. So yes, it is a specific use case of a much wider feature base that we are offering, which is campaigns and automatic campaigns and the ability to engage with your customers, but we've made it concrete and simple for her. And the fact that it's a small part of a bigger system is going to serve her later. But right now we're trying to help her specifically with her problem right now. And I think, again, I am obviously not a banker. If you've seen how flushed I get when I see numbers, especially money, you'll know that I'm not a banker. But I think we have to kind of again put ourselves in the shoes of the small business and ask ourselves, is this the right time to be pushing for a change of business model, or are we preparing them for that change of business model? If we're suggesting to them that they should build a website, do we also make sure that they understand that they need to have branding and an SEO strategy and an understanding of how that website serves their business? Or are we just, trying to be responsive in the short term and grabbing at whatever we can? Because I don't think for us it is responsible to, come and offer, solutions that are just mantras at this point, because we're doing them more a disservice at the end of the day. It is our responsibility to curate what we are offering them and make sure that we are not creating additional pressure on them. The second example that we wanted to share was of a business from the type of businesses that were able to work through the pandemic. That's a strength and conditioning coach who was able to take his existing user base and he's basically trainees, suggest to them to move to training over Zoom. He kept his business model as it was, and he was able to, as he says, retain 70% of his business active, which obviously was great for him. I know him personally. I spoke to him personally, so I know he wasn't expecting it. His customers were very supportive of him because they also wanted the business to survive. And at the end of the day, if someone is training with a personal trainer, it's definitely because they weren't looking to train on YouTube. I mean, if I had the ability to train on YouTube, I would have. So I think when we're talking about these kind of businesses, yes, they were able to survive the initial lockdown, and they were able to retain a lot of their business. And now it's about, they didn't need like an emergency help for the short term. And now they're coming back to business and they're looking at what they're able to do and maybe potentially expanding a little or stretching their imagination a little bit around what their business models might be. So I can tell you that in that trainer's case, what he realized that yes, although he did go back to training people face to face because he was able to where he was training, he still maintains the ability to train people over Zoom because first of all, it might be more convenient for them or it might be more convenient for him in specific situations. But then also over this time, he realized that he can train people abroad, that he can train people in other cities. So it did not completely change his model, but it expanded his model, maybe by 20%. And I think we should be conscious of the fact that coming out of lockdown and the pandemic, even people who were able to transition their business online will not necessarily want to keep it that way forever. I mean, maybe they didn't feel the same level of connection that they felt when they're seeing their customers face to face. I can say for myself, I used to travel a lot and meet our partners on a pretty regular basis. Of course, I can do this on Zoom now, but it's not the same. I bet anyone here who's a conference organizer knows that it's not the same. And eventually people are resistant to change. So even if it was successful for him for a period of time, it doesn't mean that he wants to keep 70% of his business over Zoom. He was very glad to come back, but that extra 20% remains. And it's, again, our responsibility to make sure that we can help him maintain that dual business model. So in our case, he's using vCita to schedule to manage his calendar, manage his clients. So some of them will be he'll be meeting face to face, some of them he'll be meeting online, but in general the customer experience that they will be receiving from the system point of view is very much the same. The other side of it, he did have, like Julie, the doctor, he did have staff members that he had to let go through, having a leaner period. I think we do have to make sure that we help them plan for a future and for an economic situation that might be leaner. So how are we, able to create that efficiency in their business, to make sure that they do have the financial buffers that are relevant, to make sure that they are prioritizing money generating opportunities, and that could be through dashboards and reporting and education, again, all of those things. And then of course, I personally believe that the midterm is where we can realistically expect to start offering new products through partnerships within our space. And now I'm moving from talking about the small business to talking about ourselves as businesses. Are we realistically able to respond within a week or 2 weeks? Probably not. But I think we can create a great speed to market by partnering and offering complementary services to our SMEs. And the midterm period is already quite likely that we're going to be able to succeed doing that. And lastly, I want to talk about long-term solutions. This is Owen. Owen is a YouTube marketing coach. So theoretically, he wouldn't have been affected at all by COVID-19. His business was completely online to begin with, and it remained online. However, of course, none of us is completely immune to what it is to live through this time. His clients suffered, and therefore he has less business. And he himself, of course, went into lockdown like a lot of people. He has kids, so maybe it wasn't the same as before. And I think specifically for Owen, he's a very interesting character because he's a cancer survivor, and he's gone through a period of scaling down his business and scaling his business back up previously. as he was battling his disease, and he was able to share with us some longer term insights, because obviously we still don't know what COVID-19 is going to look like in the long term, but he was able to kind of share his experience of scaling down, scaling back up, and how it affected his business in the long term, by kind of thinking back on that period of his fight with cancer, which he thankfully survived and won. And I think that when you have that kind of experience in life, and I'm sure a lot of small businesses coming out of COVID-19, whether they were personally affected or not, the long-term outcome of this is the thinking, okay, how can we become better, stronger, more resilient in the long term now that we've survived that? And, you know, in our case, the way that we are trying to support small businesses through this is help them build, a learning culture. So obviously small businesses are agile by definition. Obviously a lot of them might be knocked down and bounce back. Obviously their personal lives affect their business directly because they are one. Which is like in Owen's case, was a personal struggle and not a public struggle like it is right now. But at the end of the day, how are we supporting this environment of learning and adopting new thinking, new technologies, new business models, and then learning again and then adopting again? Because as we all know, the only constant is change, and things will change again. I mean, I know a lot of people talk about new normal. We talk about next normal potentially, because who knows what the eventual normal is going to be. So how do we support those things? In our case, we chose to take our existing tool set, and I've mentioned them previously. We do have tools that can help them through all kinds of stages of their business and all kinds of tasks. And we've started by just making sure that we highlight the specific ones that are relevant for their vertical in this particular time, to simplify it and make it very actionable and relevant to them right now. But in the long term, what we would like them to do is to make a more regular use of a wider set of our tools, with a wider set of our learnings and teachings that we've built into the tool. So we've built an entire learning hub to help people explore new potential things that they could do in their business. It links directly into the tool. So if I learned about, for example, how to stay engaged with my clients, I can then go ahead and implement it directly. We're regularly building new materials into this, which I think is extremely important, because we're kind of rolling with punches as they are, and we're trying to make them very relevant and topical for them. And I think we have to, and again, from a banking perspective, look at this in a very similar way. How can we tie what they are going through right now and how they are thinking about their future into actionable things? And for us, what we're doing with our partners is that we're letting them create content and build it into the platform, so it's all in a single place that they can go back and refer to on a regular basis. We're building, our community of SMEs is at the core of this, so they're creating the content, they're sharing their experiences with other people, which goes back to me mentioning at the beginning that we ourselves are not SMEs, and we have to include them in this process. We have to let them, talk about their problems in their language. We are not there to dictate how, what they feel about digitalization or their financial situation, or how they might transform. We are giving them a stage to do so, And at the end of the day, we hope to bring in a larger ecosystem and of partners into this, because obviously the more the rich materials we build into this, that will benefit the SMEs, and in the long run, I hope karma will benefit us. And I think that was my last slide.
Yes, thank you, Eddie. Actually, I would like to encourage our attendees to type your questions in the chat right now, because we can have extra minutes, to answer your questions. While you're thinking, Eddie, I wanted to discuss with you two questions what I was thinking while you were presenting. Well, first one is that, yes, we've been discussing even during our webinars, starting from SMEs they are naturally agile, and that just because they're so close to break even, that they need to be agile, and I think that probably now there is a case that they should change their business models anyway, because I think there will be no situation that they will have an opportunity, to continue working in old ways in this next new reality, as you called it. And what is interesting about this digitalization, I saw even some creative examples by SME. So even if it was, a company or an entrepreneur who was doing, a manicure or something like this, they were so creative. For example, I like that example very much. So they were sending and selling the sets how to remove a nail polish and to do a manicure by your own in the time of lockdown. And they because the need remained,
Yeah.
of course we cannot meet face to face and they cannot do it physically, but the need remains. And this is actually the task, to think creatively how you can cover this need in a maybe new way, in new channels. And while probably this was a bit of problem to go digital for SMEs, is just because they themselves, here, for example, in Poland, PKO Bank is doing every year a study, and the percentage of SMEs that are investing in the innovations and digitalization in their own businesses, like on average in other sectors, is 19%. So actually, probably now also this is the case that, and this is the moment to actually maybe to increase this coverage and increase the presence in digital channels anyway. So in social medias and YouTube, depending on the sector. Of course, not everybody will become, as you mentioned, a star, but anyway, maybe you hear also. But also part of customers appeared that they would like to see you online, for example. They don't want to meet you physically, maybe. So I actually wanted to ask you, as you are working 10 years with your SME user base, have you actually seen, and have you seen now during this last 3 months, are the SMEs that turning this technology for the help in their businesses? For how many times the percentage this usage of tools increased? If you can share with us some insight on that.
Absolutely. I think first of all, yes, if anything, we are working with the most agile and the most creative audience out there, which is amazing for us. We've seen people take what you would think traditionally to be a completely retail brick and mortar business, and take a van and start doing deliveries. We've had a jewelry shop who started doing jewelry consultations online. So basically you would book a session to look at jewelry and have that same consultation. At the end of it, it will be sent to you, because obviously jewelry is something very personal. I personally bought plants from a garden nursery that started delivering plants, because people were spending a lot of time at home, so they were looking to redecorate a little bit. I think it's not necessarily a change of business model, in the sense that I used to be selling jewelry and now I am selling something else. You're still selling jewelry, you reimagine the delivery method of that jewel. But I think specifically, we have to lead them. Like, of course, a lot of them are, again, far more creative than we are, and they've already figured things out. I think what we can do is enable that sharing of knowledge and an inspiration between them, because if that jewelry shop is doing it in a certain location, another jewelry shop can do it in another location, or maybe not a jewelry shop, maybe it's a clothing shop, maybe it's a garden shop. But I think that we can bring in more people who didn't have that original idea in mind and teach them how to use technology. And then also we have to be realistic, because, for example, e-shops, obviously extremely relevant for people who are makers of things, if they are designers, if they are manufacturers. It's not necessarily very relevant to the shop under my house that sells little things to do, like, that's coming from China, which is basically the same as anywhere else. And mostly what was working for them was their location, the fact that it was close to me. So they need to reimagine, not necessarily how they sell things, because nobody will actually take the time to go to that specific shop online, because I could go to any shop online. I don't need to specifically go to that. But the fact that they're close to me means that they can offer me, for example, an option to see it and return it on the same day. Or they can send again, consultation levels. I can book to go there when I know that I'm the only person there, so there's not a long queue or a long crowd, so they can remain COVID compliant as they are opening up. So we try to bring in as many examples as possible into the platform, and we would like to do that in as many business aspects as possible. So how do you do marketing now? How do you do sales now? How do you do payments now? How do you build your business plans now? All of these things, I think the fact that we are exposed to many different business models, many different ideas, allow us to kind of generate that creativity for them, or help them generate it. And yes, we have seen, as you said, an increase in usage, significant increase in usage, for example, within our communication features. So the campaigns features, for example, because people do understand that now is the time to be engaging with their clients more, because they're not seeing them face to face. So that's definitely an urgency that we're seeing now that we haven't seen before.
Yes, and actually we have a question here connected with your answer from Diana. How do you share this knowledge? What do you consider the most successful channels nowadays during pandemic?
Well, I think people do like videos. This is like the short answer. We've built a learning hub, as I said, that is connected directly to specific tools in the product. So they're able to kind of click through from a video lesson where another SME is sharing their story of what they've done into a specific tool. So it gives kind of context. But also, of course, social media is still extremely important. At the end of the day, we are linking between a world of knowledge and opinions and advice, and we have to kind of grab their attention where they are and take them by the hand and bring them into this environment. So yes, obviously we have our own marketing team and are doing social media, doing paid advertising, doing whatever the traditional ways that you would catch people's attentions, but then try to kind of alter what it is that we are offering them. It's no longer about, is now the time to to take on a full CRM transformation. It's more about, we think we can help you with this thing. Is this interesting to you? So it's same traditional. I don't know if social media is traditional, but same channels, bringing them under a little bit of a different proposition.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my question also, so as we were discussing what the examples we have seen during these last 3 months, that some quick solutions or solutions that were fastly implemented into the market were actually implemented with the partners. So these were partnership, and for example, the examples we just showed here from a Polish bank, this was also partnerships. So actually, my question to you is, how do you actually partner with the banks, and what are the resources are needed, let's say, from the bank side to implement such solutions for their SMEs?
Yeah. I think, as always, it depends on what is the expectation on both sides. We have, we've been partnering with, let's call it, distribution partners or resellers for years now. So we have an infrastructure to create a separate standalone instance for our partners that will give them the ability to, first of all, put their branding on it, which is always important, but also for us to kind of still be the ones that are supporting the end users. I think it's extremely important that we are not trying to transform our partners, the banks, in the process of trying to help them help SMEs. So we're trying to maintain, to stick to the same business models that our partners know how to sell with. We have various types of partnerships. So some of our partners will be more comfortable just, recommending us, sending traffic our way. Some would like to, yes, create the full environment and then introduce their own content into the system, connect it to their existing apps, their existing offering. I think obviously the more connectivity we can create, the more successful it is. And then, it's a question of time to market. We can, create a single a new instance of the product within days and be in market, or we can, and it happened to us before, spend 6 months on various integrations if they make sense for that client. I think in this day and age, again, I wouldn't try to reinvent the wheel. Also from a bank perspective. So let's stick to what each of us knows how to do and their strength. We're not expecting our partners to start supporting cloud software. We're not expecting ourselves to now become the leaders of the branding. So it's about creating, getting the best of both worlds, I would say.
But do you usually do white label or co-branded projects?
So our projects in this case would normally be partner-led branding. So very big logo of our partners and then powered vCita at the bottom, so we can maintain the support services. I think we found that it's the most efficient way of doing it, and again benefiting from both worlds. But of course, these things open to discussion.
I see.
As you know.
I see. So we have no new questions. So then I will be closing the webinar. Thank you very much, Eddie, for your contribution today, and thank you all our attendees for staying with us till the very end. And so, as I mentioned at the beginning, you will receive the materials of the webinar within an hour maximum as we finish now. So thank you to all of you, and goodbye. See you next time online as well.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank
Stay
you. Thank
safe.
you all. Bye. You too.
Bye bye.